And meanwhile, in the midst of everything we've been talking about today, we expect a bipartisan group of more than 30 state attorneys general to announce an antitrust lawsuit against Google later today, accusing them of favoring their own products in their search results. I'm not going to hold the show this afternoon just to report the news because we know it's coming. We can read the quotes and get some smart analysis of the details of the case tomorrow. But in the meantime, I did want to flag this because we've actually had a look at this antitrust suit, which is being led by the Texas Attorney General. And interestingly, it makes a specific accusation that Google gave Facebook special privileges in exchange for not supporting a competing ad system. This is potentially very, very meaningful. A lot of these other antitrust cases have been kind of arguing theory, like what is a monopoly and what isn't? What is the definition of the market a given company is operating in? What constitutes anti-competitive behavior, even? But this is potentially something more tangible because this alleges actual cut and dry collusion, the actual divvying up of a market by two powerful players in that market. This would be an actual illegal conspiracy. We're talking felonies here, allegedly. Quoting Wired. As described in the complaint, the scheme between Google and Facebook has its roots in 2017 when Facebook announced it would start supporting something called header bidding. The details are too wonky to get into here. Basically, Google, which runs the biggest online ad exchange, likes to make publishers give it first dibs on bidding to place an ad. Publisher just means any website or app that runs ads. Header bidding was a technical hack that allowed publishers to earn higher prices by soliciting bids from multiple exchanges at once. Google hated this because it created more competition. When Facebook declared that it would work with publishers that used header bidding, it was seen as a provocation. The millions of businesses that advertise with Facebook don't just advertise on Facebook. Through the Facebook Audience Network, the company also places ads across the web, making it one of the biggest ad buyers on the internet. If it began supporting header bidding, that could cause Google's ad platform to lose a lot of business. Drawing on internal documents uncovered during its investigation, however, the Texas Attorney General claims that Facebook's leaders didn't actually want to compete with Google. They wanted Google to buy them off. This seems to have worked. In September 2018, the companies cut a deal. Facebook, the complaint says, agreed to, quote, curtail its header bidding initiatives and send the millions of advertisers in its Facebook Audience Network to bid on Google's platform. In return, Google would give the Facebook Audience Network special advantages in ad auctions, including setting aside a quota of ad placements to Facebook, even when the company didn't make the highest bid. The agreement, the complaint says, quote, fixes prices and allocates markets between Google and Facebook, end quote. Here's why that matters. The other antitrust cases filed against Google and Facebook this year by the Justice Department for Google and the Federal Trade Commission and state attorneys general for Facebook are based on Section 2 of the Sherman Act, which is about building a monopoly. In a Section 2 case, it isn't enough to show that a company dominates a market. The government must also prove that it got to the top by using anti-competitive tactics rather than by just being the best. The alleged conspiracy between Google and Facebook is different. It falls under Section 1 of the Sherman Act, which makes it illegal for two or more companies to make any contract or agreement, quote, in restraint of trade, end quote. While the Texas case is a civil suit, the claims in it could conceivably serve as the basis of federal criminal charges. A Section 1 case is much simpler. If there's proof that the companies did agree to fix prices, rig bids, or just not compete with each other, that's the end of the inquiry. Quote, if you can prove an agreement between two firms, once you have proof of that agreement, it is called per se illegal, said Sally Hubbard, Director of Enforcement Strategy at the Open Markets Institute, an anti-monopoly think tank. Quote, this is why antitrust enforcers love to bring Section 1 cases, because if you can find evidence of more than one firm agreeing to fix prices, agreeing not to compete, agreeing to allocate a market, once you prove that agreement, it's automatically illegal. It ends there, end quote. Unlike last week's Facebook antitrust filing or the House report on big tech from over the summer, most of the juicy details and internal documents, including a screenshot of the contract terms between Facebook and Google, are blacked out. The heavy redactions are not the only strange thing about the case. The Texas Attorney General's office, fresh off a losing effort to overturn the presidential election, announced the suit in a weird, amateurish video posted to Twitter before the case had been filed. Still, there are some tantalizing clues. The document alludes to an email about the arrangement from Dan Rose, Facebook's vice president of partnerships, to CEO Mark Zuckerberg. That suggests that whatever deal the two companies had was signed off on at the highest levels. Another heavily redacted section alleges Google violated users' privacy in, quote, egregious ways, after signing an agreement with Facebook in 2015 that gave the company access to, quote, millions of Americans' end-to-end encrypted WhatsApp messages, photos, videos, and audio files, end quote. So, dun dun dun, as Roger McNamee tweeted, quote, the filing asserts that Google conspired with Facebook in the digital ads market. If they can prove it, and they appear to have evidence, Google and Facebook are in huge trouble, end quote.